Growing older, alone, and single. The pros, the cons, and the cost of living to keep in mind. While we're on the subject of being single, I would like to touch upon something related to being single, and that's growing old. Single. The pros, the cons, and the cost of living, and some other factors to keep in mind as you go through this book. I bring this up because I want you to keep in mind certain realities that everyone faces when they're single and growing older in life without someone. Like I said, the pros, the cons, and the cost of living. If you're young, what you'll hear me say should serve as some powerful insight as to what your future holds if you were to grow old single. Many young people today fear that they will grow old alone and be single for the rest of their life without someone. Well, for those who are currently in their 40s and 50s or older, then what I have to say may serve as confirmation as to what you may or may be experiencing right now at that stage of life. So without any further ado, let's get to it. Oh, and by the way, growing old, single, isn't a bad thing. I've known people who are in their 40s and their 50s and love their life at that age, despite being single. It may not be the case for everyone, but it is for many people who love their single status as they age. Now, the pros of growing old, single, and alone. Well, in a nutshell, if you happen to grow older, single and alone, by then, hopefully, you would have had plenty of time to make and save a lot of money, which will serve you well financially as you head into retirement. Pursued tons of personal interests, hobbies, and activities, which will satisfy you personally and help fill your time as you get older. Maybe you've traveled the world. Maybe you've made several new quality friends and acquaintances along the way, which those relationships have lasted 10 plus years. Hopefully you've spent ample free time working out and staying fit and eating well so your health is the best it can be when you get up in age. Many couples tend to get comfortable and gain extra weight during their years together, which is obviously not healthy. Much of your success and personal accomplishments are all due to the fact that you had ample time and availability to do so, being single. You weren't in a relationship. You didn't have children to care for, maybe. Perhaps, and for the most part, your time was all yours to do with as you please. A good thing, right? Well, on the flip side, folks who grow older as a couple kind of tend to wind up having expenses and single folks never have, such as expenses related to their children or an ailing spouse with expensive healthcare costs. Granted, this doesn't mean you couldn't have your own healthcare cost issues as you grow older, single as well. Many do. The pros about growing older, alone, and single is, what were you able to accomplish with all that time to yourself? Did you grow personally? Help others along the way? What did you achieve with your career, interests, or hobbies? How did you choose to impact the world and still leave some kind of personal legacy behind? You know, growing older, alone, and single can have its benefits. So don't think it's all bad and some kind of life sentence. Life is what you make it. Many times, people replace having a significant other with great friends, fun hobbies, and other interests that feed them personal fulfillment for years on end. A good thing, that's for sure. So, what about the cons of growing old, single, and alone? Well, the only cons related to growing older, single, and alone is that you might not have anyone to share those great and wonderful events and memories in life with on an intimate basis, with someone you happen to fall in love with and be close together with intimately for years, perhaps decades. You might not have children or a family of your own. For some folks in their 50s and 60s and higher, I've heard them say how much they were saddened to see their older friends with children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. They chose the single life to pursue their career or live life on high, single throughout their 20s, 30s, and even 40s, which isn't a bad thing, if that's your choice. But decisions have gains as well as consequences alike. It's just that at the end of the line, they didn't pay the personal price when they were in their 20s, 30s, or 40s of having children and raising a family of their own, which takes time and commitment. So their holidays wound up being a little more quieter than if there were, say, 10 or 15 people running around singing carols and whatnot. Sure, You can live vicariously through your immediate family, other relatives, or a close friend's family who has all those things. But there's no one special in your life who you can run to when you want to share your personal ups and downs. What's more, if you do happen to fall on hard times as you get older, who do you have to depend on? Sometimes those hard times are temporary, such as a few months out of work or maybe a year or two getting over a certain kind of health issue. You can just imagine. But who's there to cover your bills so you can get through those hard times and come out on top? If you're alone, single, who's going to make you that hearty bowl of soup and bring it to you while you lay in bed getting better? Who's going to pay for some or all of the bills when you're out of work? No one, well, maybe mom or dad, if they're alive, to do so if they can. I know friends in their 40s and 50s who are busy taking care of their ailing parents. Their parents can't take care of them as they need the help and assistance for themselves. What's more, there's the issue of sex and romantic intimacy as we age. The older you get, the more careful you are when it comes to sleeping around so loosely as you might have when you were younger. It's also harder to let people into your life, intimately speaking, because you want to protect all that you've earned and accumulated at that stage of life. You don't want roommates. You don't want deadbeats who haven't been able to get their own life together, for the past 20 to 40 years. As we age, there are other factors to take into consideration when it comes to dating and finding someone you can trust to even have sex with in the first place, such as your own aging health issues, looks, and physical performance issues, living arrangements, etc. Granted, anybody can have sex at any age. Hey, let the sparks fly, baby. No matter how old you are, right? Yeah. The point I'm trying to make is for years, the sexual bonding, skin on skin, cuddling in bed, night after night, the romantic naked baths, the midnight romps with that significant other are not there because you were single. Is that the end of the world? No. But it is something you may have missed out on. Maybe instead you spent your life working or making lots of money or hiking and sewing on the weekends and playing video games night after night for the past 30 years. Hey, good for you. I think you get what I'm trying to say here. All those years, single and alone, and you just missed out on some of the great moments in personal growth, sexually speaking. Again, it's not the end of the world. There are couples in sexless marriages. There are couples who have lost interest in each other for other reasons beyond the bedroom. So whether you're single or in a relationship, there will always be pros and cons. The challenge is, how can you make your life, while you're single or in a relationship, the best it can be? Now, the costs of growing old, single, and alone. When it comes to the cost of living as you get older, well, that, my friend, is almost entirely upon your shoulders if you are single. Granted, a relative might pass away and leave you some kind of inheritance. Hey, I'll pray it's $1 million. Sometimes, though, what happens is a parent, let's say, didn't plan well for their passing. They left bills behind and a scrambled estate that everyone's attacking. That's something you should help plan to avoid if you can. Talk to your parents. Talk to the parent who's still alive. Hey, remember what happened to mom or dad? Whoever it is in this situation. We need to plan better, okay? These are the hard talks that you got to have when you're older with your parent or parents. So where you're concerned, you cannot rely on anyone. And this is just my advice. Prepare while you're young to make a lot of money and invest it for 20 plus years. In fact, learn how to make money investing. Why not? Takes a little bit of time. Study it for 6 months to a year. You can practice with test accounts, fake money, so you're not risking anything. Once you hit a certain age, finding work will become very hard to come by. You won't be hired because you're too old or you're overqualified and expensive. Don't rely on Social Security to pay your bills. That's a quasi-bankrupt organization. Well, you know the deal with that one. So just don't rely on it. I've heard people, and we know this to be true, that Social Security recipients average anywhere between $600 and $1,500 a month. That's not enough to live on, to pay your rent, pay your bills, have a little extra money left over for yourself. No. No. So your healthcare costs and insurance premiums always stand to increase as you age. Living alone, single, can pose many cost issues. Just be prepared for them if you can. You have the time, hopefully. Plan. How will you pay your bills, rent, mortgage, and entertainment expenses when you don't have a job or you're retired for 20 plus years? In fact, this reminds me of my neighbor, actually, who told me that he only has about 10 years worth of savings to pay his bills. He's like 70 something. And he said, after that, I'm going to be kicked to the old folks' home because I ain't got money to live on my own. So we must prepare as we go into that older age to have some kind of residual income, passive income, some kind of online business or investments with dividends that pay every month, every quarter. You got to have income coming in all the time, especially when you get older. And if you're single, something happens to you? No. Again, even if you have some kind of financial assistance from the government or company pension, will it be enough? With inflation on the rise these days and a devaluing dollar, who the heck knows? Probably not. So many companies today don't offer the kind of retirement packages they used to offer their employees who stayed with a company for 20 plus years. Those days are so long gone. Even government agencies are having trouble paying their retirees' pensions. Cities are going bankrupt all over the country because they can't afford to pay the pensions they promised to their employees when they retired. It's a mess. Besides, who stays with a company again these days for more than 2 to 5 years? So better to plan ahead, work hard, save, have a few side hustles to bring in extra money to pay debt or start investing, real estate, stocks, crypto. What? There's so many things you can invest in today. Businesses. It's never too late. So whether you choose to grow older, single, and alone, or you happen to grow older with someone in a loving relationship, age does pose its challenges, and on many levels, as we've discussed. The trick is to take things slow, yet hustle where hustling counts. Become the best you can be. Never stop improving yourself. Find ways to make more money constantly. Change with the times. Sometimes old school thinking with running a business or marketing, etc., it doesn't fly today. What's going on today? Get into it. Tap into it. Hey, have lots of fun with every year you grow older. You're as young as you think you are. And never let anyone take advantage of you personally, sexually, financially, or any other way. As a result, I say you'll be just fine. So, what do you think about that? The pros and the cons and the costs of growing older, single and alone. Good food for thought.